Did you know you can make pasta with just flour and water, and that's it? Just 2 ingredients? You can. The Wheel of Food has told me I should make a vegan pasta today, and that means no egg. Normally, pasta is made with flour and egg, and instead, I'm going to do flour and water only. Also, you can add oil, and oil makes sense to me because you're replacing that viscosity of the egg with the viscosity of the oil. It's only like a little bit of oil, too. You don't need a lot, but I'm going to do it without just to see how it comes out. Let's talk about serving sizes. Most pasta comes in a box that's 1 pound or 16 ounces. Some of them come in 3/4 of a pound, which is 12 ounces, right? So most of them, though, are 16, some are 12. Let's talk about these 16 1-pound boxes. Each of these boxes is actually 8 servings per container. So you're supposed to have 8 of these. Most people only have 4 servings out of this box. My theory is this. If the pasta is the main event, so like spaghetti with a little bit of meat, like maybe spaghetti and meatballs, or spaghetti with a little bit of chicken, or spaghetti with vegetables, right? The spaghetti is the main event, then I go for 1/4 of this box, so 1/4 pound. If, on the other hand, it's a side to an actual main, so for example, making chicken marsala and I just want a little spaghetti with it, right? Then I do go for that 1/8. So that's how I decide how much pasta to eat, 1/8 or 1/4 of this box. And then same thing with with homemade pasta. I need to figure out a way to kind of replicate that thinking. A little bit of research has led me to believe that a 1/2 cup of flour will feed 1 to 2 people. That actually matches my box experience. So it feeds 1 person if it's the main event, or 2 people if it's a side dish, right? So since I like to cook for 2 days and eat half 2 days later, I'm going to go ahead and make a full cup of flour. My pasta is going to be my main event, so that means a 1/2 cup would feed 1 person, or a cup would feed 2. Now, technically, I don't really know, so this is going to be the experiment to find out portion sizes. We'll find out whether that's too much. It might be too much pasta. We'll learn soon enough. Now, to turn 1 cup of flour, which is going to be my 2 to 4 servings, to turn my 1 cup of flour into pasta, all I need is a 1/4 cup of warm water. So here's my 1/4 cup of warm water. I'm going to mix this together into pasta. Lots of videos that I'll show you how. I'm going to make a well, put the water in the middle, stir it up. Normally you'd put egg in the middle, but again, since it's vegan day, we're going to go with water. And I could add a little oil as well, but I'm going to forego that for this experiment. I dumped out my pasta out of the measuring cup and into a pile and then squished it with the bottom of the cup. And now I'm going to pour in some of this water and start to knead it together into a pasta dough. All right, I got my dough ball. I put it in a little bowl here. Again, this is where I could pour a little oil on top of it as well. I love doing that with my regular pasta. But again, I just want to see what happens with just the flour and water. I'm going to cover it with a damp tea cloth. And you want to let this sit to rise or proof or whatever it is that pasta does for at least 30 minutes. You can do it up to 18 hours, but 30 minutes is the minimum. So while that's going, I'm going to go ahead and make a vegetable that I'm going to eat with my pasta. So that'll give me plenty of time to make my veg and have it ready for when I'm ready to make my pasta, because the pasta itself only cooks in like a minute or 2. Oh, by the way, the 1/4 cup, not nearly enough. So the recipe I got was just not, either it doesn't scale right or it's just not written right. But I ended up needing about a 1/2 cup more water. So have 3/4 cups warm water when you do this, and just pour in a 1/4 cup to start with. Add little drops as you need them until you come into a ball. You don't want it to be sticky. You want it to be nice and firm, right? So it's a good ball, but notice it's not sticky, right? And that's when you have too much water in it. You can always add a little more flour if you need to, but then that shows off your amount of food you're about to eat ratio. Not everybody has access to a pasta machine. So I wanted to do something without a pasta machine today to show that you don't need a pasta machine. All you need is water and flour and a rolling pin and a place to roll it on. So here are some shapes you can easily make. And by the way, if you just Google all these, you can find tons of videos on how to make them. But pappardelle, which is a wide fettuccine, right? Those are one of my favorite long noodles. Fettuccine is another great noodle. And pisci is where you take a little ball and you roll it until it's a long, thin, like spaghetti strand. You can make lasagna just by cutting sheets, or manicotti or cannelloni, which is just a rolled up pasta sheet, so little tubes. Farfalle, the little bow ties, you can totally make that by just pinching little squares. Shells, you can do that by getting a little chunk and putting little divots in it. You can do ravioli by folding it in half, or sacchetti, which is like a little satch of stuff, and fill it with ricotta. So you don't have to have a pasta machine to make homemade pasta, and I'm going to do that today. I'm going to do one of these pastas without using a pasta machine. I've let my dough ball rest for 30 minutes, and again, up to 18 hours. But this is just for me for now, so let's just get going. So I'm going to go ahead and use a rolling pin to roll this out. So hopefully you guys have at least a rolling pin, if not a pasta machine. All right, she's all rolled out, and you can see I got it pretty thin. You know, it's not like I can see my hand through it like when I do my machine, but this is definitely thin enough to make a beautiful, and I'm gonna go for a pappardelle. So I was going to do a shaped pasta next time, but because I've never done just flour and water, I kind of want to go with one I've done before. And in fact, I'm torn between pappardelle and which is pretty much my favorite, and fettuccine, where it'll be a little bit thinner, or even linguine, where it's even thinner than that. So maybe I'll go a little thinner. And I'm going to preserve half, see how it goes, and the other half I'm going to eat right now. And again, all you got to do is throw this in boiling water after you cut it for a couple minutes, 2 minutes. When using either a fettuccine or a pappardelle or even a linguine, you can roll it up, or you can do it flat and then cut boop, 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 just like that, and you'll get long, little, beautiful strips. So you can see here, I'm working my way maybe a third of the way past, and I'm going for a very thin, almost a spaghetti. And so once I unravel them, you'll see it's actually more of a linguine, a little bit thinner than a fettuccine. And I'll unravel all of these, and they'll be ready to get cooked. Check out that amount of pasta. So, I don't know, seems like a reasonable amount. It doesn't seem like too much. And then I put half of it in here. So I'm going to store this and try it out in 2 days and see if it holds up in that, you know, just not hung over the dowels like I see on the internet and all that. I've heard you can just put it in the fridge, you know, in a container. So I'm going to try that, and then we'll see in 2 days if it's just all dried out and awful or if it's actually usable. And then the other question, of course, is what would happen if I cooked all of it and then just portioned it after I cook it? Would it store even better, right? So that'll be a future experiment. I'll cook the whole batch and then put half in the fridge and see how it comes out in 2 days. So I'm suspecting that this might just be not usable in 2 days. I think it's just going to dry out, and then when I try to cook it, it'll just break into little mini pieces. But I am going to find out firsthand. You've got your pasta ready. Now it's time to figure out a sauce. Here are a bunch of sauces that you have probably already at home. And these are actually classic Italian sauces for homemade pasta. Garlic and olive oil together, they call it aglio e olio. Butter and Parmesan, that's actually how you make an Alfredo. We put cream in it. That's an American thing, or maybe it's Italian, but it's certainly not the classic recipe. That's just really butter and Parmesan. And I actually prefer that over the cream-based sauces. Parmesan and black pepper, they call that cacio e pepe. Right? And there's techniques to these, but you can also just do it nice and simple. Red pepper flake is going to bump up anything. In fact, the classic aglio e olio comes with red pepper flakes. Arrabbiata is going to have red pepper flakes, maybe some red tomato sauce you could throw in there as well. Lemon can enhance any one of these ingredients. And one of my personal twists, I like using bouillon instead of salt. So chicken bouillon and butter will give you this chickeny, delicious pasta homemade sauce. You can also use beef or vegetarian bouillon as well. So all kinds of things. I'm going to go with one of the classics. I was going to go for the Alfredo Classico, but a lot of the body of that comes from the starchy water the pasta cooks in. And since this is only going to be in for a minute or two, I didn't feel like that would give me the starchiness I wanted for that sauce. So instead, I'm going to go for the classic, you got it, aglio e olio. So we have garlic that I've slivered. I'm off heat right now. And oh my gosh, I wish you guys could smell this. It's so pungent. I got some red pepper and flake in there as well. So I'm just going to let this get warm. And then I'm going to toss the pasta right in here. And it should be good to go. In the meantime, this pasta is going to go into this water for about a minute. Basically, when it floats, it's ready to go. Oh, I just dropped that all in at once. Don't do that. Drop it in a little bit at a time. I was on film and got distracted. Drop them in a little bit at a time or they could stick together. You can see it's been about a minute, and sure enough, it's all at the top. So I'm going to use a spider to get this out, and I'm going to dump it right into my sauce. Oh, yeah. Well, looking at that water, it does look like it got some good flour in there, which is probably what starchy water really is. So you know what? Maybe that Alfredo Classico would have worked. So maybe next time I will go for the Alfredo Classico. In the meantime, let's just get this tossed around, and she shall be ready to eat. Oh, can't wait. I'm going to toss it with some of my, I made a celeriac. So I'm going to celeriac roots, which is a celery root, and I'm going to go ahead and put a little bit of that in there as well. I gotta say, the celeriac looks almost like chicken, huh? Which, by the way, would be fantastic this way. All right, so now it's time for my favorite part. Okay. Okay, wow. The chew on homemade pasta that you made yourself is just different than anything you'll ever make. Store-bought raw, the fresh store-bought stuff, or box, there's a chew that's completely different, and this has that chew. Now, I think I can kind of detect the lack of egg. I think in the future, someone serve me this, I'll be like, this is a vegetarian one, or a vegan one, rather. And I think that the oil could make up for that a little bit. So there is a sense to it that I can detect, but it's still far better than any box pasta that I could have possibly made. So this is just great. And you can see it takes a half hour for it to rest and during that, you just make your regular meal. So if you think about it, it's not going to save you a lot of time to use a box pasta. It will, but not tons. So, and here's the thing, when you're cooking for one, rolling out pasta for 1 or 2 people is a lot easier than rolling it out for 4. But anyway, the chew, so worth it. Everything that I did is that texture, that chew on the actual pasta. And it came out a lot spicier than I probably intended it to. I did put a lot of red pepper flake in. I guess I got carried away. So back off on the red pepper. But just a fun thing to do. So I've been thinking to do more homemade pastas, and if you can just hand roll it like that, not even have to bust out your pasta machine, I mean, why wouldn't you? I covered a number of shapes you can make, and I'll actually show you some more in the future. But if you can make all those different shapes without even busting out your pasta rolling machine, I mean, this is something that should be on the list. So I've actually decided to add a hand-rolled pasta just by itself, and then I'll have a machine-rolled pasta as a separate item so that it comes up more often that I make pasta.